Ask yourself, why is it that the left always attaches themselves and stakes whatever is left of their reputation on the worst of all characters? Jesse Smollett is not the first Hollywood figure to be lavished with endless undeserved praise. Remember convicted sex criminal Harvey Weinstein? He was regularly treated as some sort of infallible icon across Tinseltown, even as rumors swirled for years about his behavior. Or what about the Cuomo brothers, who were doing happy talk on cable news while the disgraced former governor was covering a massive nursing home scandal? And then later, when we found out his brother was helping to do damage control to shape the public narrative as the sexual harassment probe intensified. And don't forget about the Russia hoax, where the never-ending liar Adam Schiff was propped up as some sort of selfless truth seeker, all while he fueled lie after lie about collusion and misled the American public for years about the actual evidence that undermined the Russia hysteria misinformation. And here's another name you probably never want to hear again, but sorry about this. Remember Michael Avenatti? I know, I have to do it. The convicted scam artist lawyer who the media fawned over as he went on anti-Trump tirade after tirade, and was even caught working with an accuser, Brett Kavanaugh, to put out false claims of sexual abuse, eventually prompting a criminal referral from the Senate Judiciary Committee. Or take the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, where an innocent young man was smeared while his attackers, all who had criminal histories, including a convicted pedophile, were portrayed as selfless victims standing up for justice. It's dangerous, it's destructive, and it's delusional, but unfortunately, it's also not at all surprising. And despite giving all these grifters a platform and seeing their credibility crater even further, the left-wing media fools never, ever want to admit what they've done. Just look at the CNN headline from last night. Quote, Jesse Smollett, guilty on some charges. In a bizarre attempt to downplay the news. You know, 5 of 6 charges is much more than some, thank you. And this one from MSDNC, Jesse Smollett being found guilty of hoax will hurt LGBTQ folks reporting hate crimes. Oh, so it's not that Smollett concocted the hate crime hoax. No, that's not the problem. The problem is that he was caught and found guilty. Got it. Now, this is how the left has always protected the horrible people leading their fight, telling victims to say and do nothing because it will hurt the cause or damage the mission. I know this personally from what I experienced on the left. No wonder the worst of the worst embrace the Democrat cause. Meanwhile, the ladies at The View are ready to forgive the hoaxer.
It was unimaginable to anybody that it could be a hoax.
It's Twitter's fault anyway.
There is a place for forgiveness, right? In our country.
Yeah, no, it wasn't unimaginable. Many of us knew it and imagined it, yes. Media gaslighting is just one of the many reasons that their audiences are abandoning them. And their ratings continue to sink lower and lower, fueling lies, hate, and more division. It's all that the left has remaining. And the worst part, spewing the lies of charlatans like Smollett is what actually undermines and diminishes the struggles of real victims. That is what undermines everything the left claims to care about. Biden-Harris, they led the Smollett hoax, and so many other hoaxes from the beginning, turning victims and turning villains essentially into victims and victims into villains. That's part of the core playbook of the left. And we've been exposing it all this week, showing you how it penetrates into every single issue. For example, across the country, 12 American cities have hit record homicides, cities all run by Democrats. But according to the far-left prosecutors, it's the people concerned about the crime who are really the bad guys. On COVID, don't you dare question the people who lied about the origins of the virus, or you're somehow the threat to public health. Or in education, heaven forbid, you don't want your children indoctrinated with far-left extremism because to the National School Board Association, you might be a domestic terrorist. All these issues, they're all fruit of the same poisonous tree, designed to make you question reality itself. That's the gaslighting. And on the economy, an issue directly impacting all of our lives every day, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today inflation has spiked to a remarkable 39-year high. Inflation is 6.8% higher than it was 1 year ago, the largest 12-month increase since 1982. Remember, just a few days ago, the legacy media crowed that the White House had invited a bunch of them into the White House to promote more favorable coverage of Biden's economic disaster, and it worked. The liberal media is now portraying the economy as booming booming under Biden. Oh, it is booming. Like that sound the Titanic made when it was splitting in two just before it sank. The Biden media would describe that as the White Star Line, having figured out how to give passengers 2 ships for the price of 1. And you get a cruise and a fireworks show all in one. Yeah. So tonight, let's block out the noise, separating facts from fiction, and expose the destructive Democrat agenda for what it is, a total and complete farce. And we have a couple of gentlemen here who have opinions and insight. Here to react, Joe Concha, the Hill media opinion columnist and Fox News contributor, and Jason Rantz, Seattle radio host. You know him well. All right, first of all, let me say to you, Joe, your job is to, thank God, look at other media so we don't have to. Is this surprising to you at all? It kind of all seems to be crumbling in on them, and it seemed pretty obvious to us what was happening.
Yeah, Tammy, lots to unpack there. Bravo, golf clap on that monologue. And none of what you said is inaccurate. I'll take the media perspective on Smollett just to start off here. Many in the industry portrayed him as a victim of a hate crime, didn't even question his story, all because the ultimate target was Donald Trump supporters who all just, happened to be wandering around Chicago in sub-zero weather while carrying nooses and bleach and hunting gay actors of color at 2 a.m. because apparently I guess that's the thing in the Windy City. You also mentioned Adam Schiff. Here's a guy, if you cloned a combination of Avenatti and Smollett, that's who would come out, basically, right? And Schiff, Tammy, he lies for years, right, about having tangible proof of collusion. And what happens after his claims are debunked? He's awarded with a lucrative book deal and media tour, right? And then finally, I'll leave it here. There's this effort you described by many media to appease the Biden administration in trying to spin the unspinnable, right? 40-year high inflation. Hey, gas prices are down 7 cents. CNN calls it, quote, an antidote for inflation, unquote. Skyrocketing violent crime, looting, largely ignored. Like the Waukesha massacre, right? Because of who carried it out. Open border, won't open border. I could go on, but we have finite time, Tammy. No apologies, no self-reflection, just pious hubris.
And Jason, as an observer and a critic of what's going on in the street with government and politicians, you see the everyday impact of lies when they come out, of not reporting things when it's important. What's your take on where we're at today?
I look at what's going on and I say Democrats in and out of the media are pushing a very specific narrative that happens to align with their own political goals. So they don't really need to be held accountable to any of the facts. So when you see that fraud Jesse Smollett making a claim that never made sense to begin with, it didn't matter whether or not it was true. It mattered that it fit into that end goal that the people want to push this fundamental change of this country and our systems. So what came, for example, of the claims that the biggest threat is white supremacy in this country? Well, what came of that? Racism exists, there's no doubt about it. There are such a thing as racists, but there's no massive white supremacy threat. When I looked into the actual number, the uptick in anti-Asian hate crimes here in Seattle, what I was supposed to find was a whole bunch of white people committing them, but no, that wasn't what was going on. It was black people who were mostly homeless and dealing with mental health issues. That's not a white supremacy issue, but that term is used intentionally because it aligns with these talking points about the need to dismantle systems of oppression like police departments and the criminal justice system, even farmers markets. So they're doing this on purpose. They're framing stories around white supremacy because they want to prime us to accept their narrative ahead of pushing these policies.
And you're absolutely right. And Joe, what that requires is believing that your neighbor is evil, that your coworker is evil, that you can't trust your doctor, you can't trust the police, certainly, we've been told that every system is corrupt. Isn't that what the Democrats and what these narratives are meant to do, which is divide us by using false narratives, hoaxes, lies, overall?
And not just the Democratic Party, Tammy, but the media itself. Gallup had a poll out last year that said that 84% of the American people say that the media bears some of the blame for divide in this country,
so
because that's what sells. Conflict sells. Yes, exactly. And even last summer, during the summer of 2020, the summer of love, we heard about these mostly peaceful riots. You see a reporter from CNN or MSNBC, and behind him it looks like the Nakatomi Plaza at the end of Die Hard. That was basically like a tacit approval of what was happening. So now we see, fast forward 2021, all this crime that's happening. It's because that we excused it in 2020. We said that the cause was bigger than the